Well, hello, welcome to my site. The name of my site is called Being Senior. We specialize in shared experiences for seniors. I like to share my experiences, and I also would like to share some of my friends' experience also, as I live in a senior community and we have a bunch of people who want to talk. But anyway, today's episode is about me. It's called I Had a Stroke, No Joke, I'm Broke. And I'm going to tell you about the introduction into my senior years, some things I went through, and to show you there's hope no matter what it is you're going through. So anyway, my name is Larry. I'm 75 years old, and the best thing probably about being 75 is in only 3 more years, my student loans will be paid off. So anyway, let's kind of get into what this video is actually about. When I was getting ready to enter into my 60s, I was still in my 50s, I was in my late 50s. I'd worked most of my adult life in law enforcement. I'd worked for 2 different sheriff's departments in 2 different states. I had worked high-end security. I'd worked casino security in Vegas. I was a certified personal protection agent, and my life, I thought I was on top of the world. It was a good life. I was really enjoying it. It was absolutely wonderful. I can't tell you how wonderful it was. I loved getting up every single day. Well, one afternoon I was getting ready to go into a job, an evening job, and I started getting dressed, and I suddenly found myself not able to stand. And then my right arm had gone completely numb, so I couldn't feel my right leg or my right arm, and I just found myself sitting down on the floor. At that particular time, it was sometime between 3 and 4 in the afternoon, and I was on the floor a little perplexed about what happened. So just about that time, fortunately, my ex-wife came home just right about that moment, and she looked at me, and she had worked as a paramedic, and she looked at me and she said, "You've had a stroke, let's get you to the hospital." So we went to the hospital, did the MRI, all the tests, everything you have to do before they can decide for sure what's wrong with you. And it turned out I had a major clot in the left side of my neck in the carotid artery. And a piece of that had broken off and gone to my brain. So they were going to have to operate. We didn't get into surgery until the next morning. They weren't sure if I was even going to survive it. So anyway, they cut my neck open from just under my chin line. I mean, what would you call this? Anyway, just under right here where I'm showing you, all the way down to my collarbone. They pulled my carotid artery out and they put a stent in it, put it all back together, and I was off to recovery. Well, when I was in recovery, all the surgery they did, it just blew. It just went off just like a fire hose. My neck had blown open. It was spraying blood everywhere. And so I was rushed back into surgery, which they did not expect me to survive. But fortunately, I'd been in good enough shape that I actually did survive it. I would spend the next 3 months in the hospital. It was a trying time. I can't say I was scared. A stroke is really, at least my stroke was not painful, but I was exhausted. I was completely exhausted. I'd sleep 20 hours out of 24. And I had noticed some severe change. By the time I got through the surgery, I could no longer talk. I couldn't walk. My cognitive skills were very poor, and the right side of my face, was all pushed way down. And anyway, after about 3 months, I had limited rehab while I was in the hospital, but I checked out a little earlier in the 3 months that they had planned for me to be there. They were having trouble getting my blood pressure under control. So anyway, I got out, and that's when serious rehab started. I had to not just do physical rehab, where I had to learn to walk again, and that was 5 days a week. I'd have to have a physical therapist every single day to try to get me to walk again. And also cognitive therapy. I had trouble talking. It was really real hard to understand me, and my cognitive level had dropped dramatically. I couldn't remember what happened 2 hours ago, yet the day before or a week before. I never seemed to know what time it was. I started forgetting people's names. Somebody come over to see me and I wouldn't know who they were. I mean, I kind of recognized their face, but by looking at them, I just couldn't tell who it was. So anyway, the cognitive therapy I did online. They have a program for it. They suggested 15 minutes a day, 3 days a week. I went at it much harder than that. I actually was doing an hour and a half a day, 5 days a week, and most often 6 days a week. And between my physical therapy and my cognitive therapy, it would take me 2 full years before I'd get functional. And anyway, the next 2 years went by, and I did my therapies religiously. And at the end of 2 years, I was functional. I could never go back to work again. That line of work is way too demanding. And you know, I was functional. I was not at my optimum. So there was just no going back to work. And I'd had to file for disability. I'd gone from making $200,000 a year down to absolutely whatever I was getting on disability. And I don't think anybody gets rich on disability. So anyway, I thought to myself, all right, I guess I'm finally at the 2-year mark. I told myself, I guess I'm doing better now and I'm on the way. Well, life continues to throw curveballs. So I got up one afternoon. I'd taken a nap. I got up, it's late afternoon. I walked into the living room and I could see my wife sitting there on the sofa. I could tell there was something wrong. I didn't know what it was, so I just looked at her and said, okay, what's up? And she tells me, she said, I want a divorce. And yes, it did catch me by surprise, but somehow it didn't seem to matter. When she told me I want a divorce, I didn't argue with her. I didn't say why. It didn't seem important. In fact, the first words out of my mouth were, well then, why don't you and I go out, because I couldn't drive at the time. I said, why don't you and I go out and look at apartments right now, and I'll move. It had become too big of a job for me to take care of the house. I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do the yard work. I couldn't do everything that it needed to have done. So anyway, so I said, let's go out and find me an apartment. And we did. Now look, I'm not trying to throw my ex-wife under the bus for throwing me this curveball. I can't say I never saw it coming. I'm not trying to make her out to be some kind of a bad guy. We just were where we were at the time, and I decided just to go out and continue to function in life. So anyway, we got an apartment for me that night, and the one thing that we didn't really we weren't able to agree on is I had a little deer-faced Chihuahua, little 5-pound dog. I'd had him since, in fact, he wasn't even weaned when I got him. He was no bigger than the palm of my hand. He was tiny. And he'd bonded with me immediately. And I wanted to take the dog, and she said, no, you can't take the dog. Well, I was in the process of moving and trying to get things together, and I really couldn't argue with it too much, but my little dog had a completely different view of the situation. Yes, she had the dog, but the dog didn't want to be there. The dog was just absolutely, he was angry. And he would go to the bathroom in the house constantly. He would cry from the time she'd get up to the time he'd go to bed. And so after only about 1 week, she called me and she said, would you like to have your dog back? And I said yes. And he has been my little buddy now for nearly 20 years. I can't believe every day he gets up. He's nearly 20 years old and he's excited. He sleeps on his bed at the next to my bed, and when I get up in the morning, he runs right to my bedroom door, and he's standing there with his little motor running, and he's excited to open the door and get out and get out there and greet the day. He's excited about the day. It's kind of a personality trait I've taken from him and learned to apply to my own life. So anyway, I now have my dog. I was living my life. I was doing okay. I still couldn't drive. I signed up on an Instacart, and I had all my groceries delivered so I wouldn't have to go anywhere. And I'd walk the dog 6 or 8 times a day, and we were pretty happy. After a couple of years, I was thinking to myself, well, I guess I finally got it together now. Everything's going good. I'm happy, and I got my dog, and life is good. And then another curveball came out. I decided after a couple of years I could ride a bicycle. Probably not a good choice. So I got on the bike and I rode down to the bank. I withdrew some money. I was riding back and I got hit by a car. When I got hit by that car, I was smashed up. The asphalt had burned my skin. I was all torn up. I had skin torn off my head, my hands, my arms. I had quite a few broken bones. I actually even had 16 of my teeth were knocked out. And if it wasn't bad enough, the driver who hit me just kept right on going, didn't slow down, left me in the street, bleeding out of my nose, my mouth, broken fingers, broken bones in my hand. I was really torn up. And I kept waiting for somebody to pull over to help me, and people just kept driving by, and I was pretty torn up, and I had so much blood on my face. I think they were just terrified to stop. They had trouble even looking at me. So I actually got to my feet, and the bike was pretty much destroyed, but I walked about a half a mile home, actually pulling the bike with me. And I'd have people drive by and look at me. They could see that I was badly hurt. Nobody was stopping. But anyway, I got home, ended up going to the hospital, the dentist, a lot of repair work, bandaged all up. Got through that. Over the next year, I'd try to get all the dentistry done from where I'd had my teeth knocked out. Some of them were broken and some of them were completely gone. So I finally did get myself, after a couple of years, I got myself back together. I was walking fine. I was doing fine. I don't want to ride any bicycles anymore. I was in the bike lane. I was completely safe, but the driver just came into the bike lane, hit me, and just kept right on going. And people ask me, did you get the license plate? And I tried to explain to them, when you're rolling down the road and you can feel your teeth caving in into your face, and you can feel that you have broken bones and everything, you're not really trying to read the license plate. It's not really high on your priority list at the time. So anyway, all that was finally behind me. So I'd gone through my stroke, losing my job, going through a divorce, being run over by a bicycle, and yet I'm still here. I'm not by I was run over by a car on my bicycle, and here I am. I'm still alive. I'm still fine. All that happened 6 or 7 years ago, at least probably 7 years ago. And so I thought, okay, I still have my little dog, so what am I going to do now? Well, my cognitive skills still weren't good enough for me to get a job. They still, I got tired easy, so I just decided to lay back and rest. So during that time, a neighbor of mine where I lived had moved to a senior community, and I didn't really know how she was doing or what happened, but she gave me a call, and she said, "Larry, you gotta come down and take a look at this place. I think not only will you fit in here well, but I think it'll be a really good experience for you." And she said, "Just come down and take a look at the place." So I told her I couldn't drive. She could still drive. So she came after me, and she got me, and she brought me down to the place where I live now. And when I moved in, I quite honestly, I don't know that I was excited about moving in, but it seemed like the thing to do. The rent was extremely reasonable. My utilities were included. Didn't have to worry about how much time I ran the heater or anything else. So I moved in, and over the course of the next year or so, I started making some friends here. People shared a lot of my experiences. People were dealing with senior issues, just like you and I are. And one day, I had noticed a woman that I'd seen a couple of times walking down the hall. I had never spoken to her. I didn't know her, didn't know anything about her, but I noticed that she'd started losing weight, a lot of weight. She was 5'6", 5'6", and she'd gotten down to about 94 pounds. So I approached her one day, and I said, I said, "I don't know what's going on," but I said, "Appears you're having a tough time." And she told her name was Janet, a beautiful little lady. We were both in our 70s, and she told me that she had been dealing with a brutal form of cancer known as multiple myeloma. Evidently it lives in the bone marrow in your system, and it ends up, when it really acts up, it spills over into your blood. So I asked her if I could bring her something to eat, because clearly she was clearly sick enough and thin enough. I knew she wasn't cooking for herself. So I brought her a muffin. I actually went to culinary school back in 1969, and I got my degree in chef training. That was before I went back to school and got my degree in psychology, but I had some skills in the kitchen. So I cooked her I cooked a whole tray of muffins. I took one over to her. They're about the size of a Big Mac, and she told me she appreciated it and thanked me. And but we didn't really have a lot of conversation. Well, later on, I'd see her again, and I'd ask her, I'd say, well, Janet, how are you doing? Can I cook you something else to eat right now? So I cooked her a meal. It was actually a chicken dish, chicken and rice dish, a bit of an Asian flavor to it, and she seemed to appreciate it and like it. Oh, I was really too shy to try to get to know her. I figured, I'm in my 70s. What am I going to do? I'm not looking to get married again, and quite honestly, I hadn't dated in probably since my 40s, maybe. It was a long time ago, and I didn't really know what to do or what to say or anything. And anyway, once I thought about inviting her over to my house for dinner one night, quite honestly, I was scared to death. After 30 years of not dating, I didn't know really what to say or what to do, and I wasn't really thinking of it as a date. All I wanted her to do was just come over and have some dinner with me and somebody to talk to. So anyway, I got over my fear. I called her. When the phone was ringing, I was dying 1,000 deaths. I was so out of my element. I didn't know what to say, what to do. I was terrified. So that conversation actually went pretty well. It lasted a while. And I convinced her she needed to come over to my apartment for dinner one night. We live right across the hall from each other. So she came over. We watched some TV. Actually, we watched some movies, and we started getting to know each other. Well, over the course of the last couple of years, those feelings have grown tremendously. When I see Janet, I see a woman. She doesn't look like a 70-something-year-old woman to me. She looks like a young woman to me. It seems when we get this age, when we see other people who are our age, they don't really look old anymore. I know I look a lot older than I used to. I used to have most of my teeth and all of my hair, and clearly you can see that's not true anymore. I mean, you can't see that I've had my dental work all done, but the hair is disappearing fast in my old age. But anyway, it turned out we had a lot in common. She's had the same number of marriages I've had. She and I, our birthdays are literally just a few weeks apart. We were born the same year. We graduated high school the same year. We both lived in several different parts of the country. But our political views were identical, and our religious views were identical. And as it turned out, we both lived in California at the same time. I didn't know her, but it turned out we were both going to the same church. All those things are just money in the bank for having a good friendship and a serious friendship. At this time, neither one of us is thinking about getting married again. We like our autonomy. We like having our own apartments. She lives in hers. I live in mine. And that's fine. It's wonderful. She comes over about 4 in the afternoon, leaves about 8 o'clock, and we enjoy each other's company for those 4 hours. And she is just the cutest and the most beautiful little woman I have ever seen, with a heart that is just as pure like gold. She's smart, she's funny, she's witty, and she brings a lot to this relationship. I know that some of my friends said, oh, if you're doing the cooking, excuse me, if you're doing the cooking and you're doing the entertaining, what does she bring to the relationship? And I always inform them the same thing. This is not a transactional relationship. I do not expect her to come with goods and services to this relationship. This relationship is developed because we're similar personality types at this point in time, and we have similar backgrounds, same age. We have a lot of things that bind us together. But she does bring things to this relationship. I still don't drive. She has a car, so she drives. But her big contribution to my life, she brings peace to my life. She doesn't complain. She never whines. She never complains about anything, not just about any of my habits. She doesn't complain about life in general. She is just a pleasure to be around. I've never had a day where I wasn't glad to see her. Every time she comes over to my house in the afternoon, it's like the first time I've ever seen her. It's wonderful. And this has been going on for a couple of years now, and we're both very happy. We've actually taken some vacations together. We've gone to the Grand Canyon. We've gone to Sedona. We've gone to a beautiful city named Payson, right here in the middle of the state of Arizona. And life is absolutely wonderful with this woman. And I thank God every day that I was fortunate enough to meet her. Now, about her cancer, she started getting better. About a year ago, she started getting better. And then the doctor called her in, and he said she was going weekly for chemo. She had to go every single week for chemo. And the doctor had always took a blood test, and the doctor called her in, and he said, I'm looking at your blood test. I really would like you to come down. So when she first developed this cancer, they told her that it was not curable, and they didn't I don't know that if they told her what life expectancy was, but I did a lot of research once I found out that she had it, and life expectancy was 2 years, kind of average, and 10 years, that was very optimistic. Not very many people would make it 10 years. So she went to the doctor. Doctor took a look at it. He said, there's no sign of the cancer in your blood, but that's not where it lives. It actually lives in your bone marrow. I need you to come in, and we're going to go in through your spine. We're going to get a bone marrow sample out of there, and we're going to take a look at it. So he did that, and we waited 2 weeks sitting on pins and needles to find out if she was in remission or doing even well. We didn't really know. And it turns out they couldn't find any sign of the cancer. None. She no longer has to go to chemotherapy. She still goes in once a month for antibodies and things like that, but she doesn't have to have those terrible chemo drugs coursing through her veins anymore. Drugs that actually kill good cells as well as bad. So it's turned out that she's doing well, I'm doing well, our life is doing well. I have someone to share my life with who lives right across the hall. We both still have our autonomy all day long. We come and go as we please. We do what we need to do. And anyway, I have somebody to share dinner with every night now. And I have somebody who puts a smile on my face every single time that I see her. We have yet to have even the most minor argument. And I'm praying that it stays that way for the rest of our lives. So that's my story, my introduction into seniorhood and where I am right now. I hope that gave you some hope for whatever you're going through right now in life. I pray for you that you find hope in my story, and that you just don't give up. You just keep going. So anyway, I thank you for listening to my story. I plan on bringing you many more stories, not just of my own, but of other seniors, relationship stories, how we deal with medical and other issues. So I hope you'll like and subscribe to my station, and I hope this was a very entertaining experience for you, and I wish you the best, and we will see you next time around. So thank you very much. My name is Larry, and good night.